Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, depending on where you have joined from. And this is one of the webinars that I was really looking forward to. My name is Amit Bansal, and I'm going to talk about how to troubleshoot a slow running query in SQL Server. That's the topic for today. My name is Amit Bansal, and my colleague Satya really wanted to host this webinar, and I told him, no, I will host and I will be the speaker myself. So I took over from him, and Satya, Aarti, Sonal, and all our team members are helping me to moderate this webinar. Let's move forward quickly. Data Platform Geeks and SQL Server Geeks are the communities that me and my team run together, and we do all these webinars and events as part of these communities. In case you don't know, we also organize an annual conference called Data Platform Summit each year in Bangalore in the month of August, September, or October. So we have done it for 5 years, and watch out for the announcement soon for the 6th edition Data Platform Summit 2020. Just a quick word, Data Platform Summit is very close to our heart. This is something that we really wanted to do from past many years, and we started off in 2015, and you can see on the right hand side all the different mascots and themes that we had over the years. This is one conference where people from all across the world come and fly and join us in Bangalore. Microsoft product team members, global MVPs, industry experts, delegates from 20 countries, more than 60 speakers from 16 countries, and we deliver more than 100 breakout sessions, open talks, and chalk talks. Great place to learn the latest in Microsoft data, AI, and advanced analytics field. We get real world learning from the product makers. Great place to network and learn from your peers. So join the Data Platform Summit page or the Telegram group, and you will be notified on the dates for Data Platform Summit 2020 very soon. And here is a quick pic that we took last year at Data Platform Summit 2019. This is our massive group photograph, and you can see more than 1,000 delegates there in the group photo. And there are some key highlights on the right-hand side. We will share this link with you. You can visit dps10.com. Yeah, so that is dps10.com, where you get to know more about Data Platform Summit. So keep these links handy. A big thanks to our Data Platform Geeks core team, my colleagues Manohar, Avanish, Vijay, and Vijay Reddy and Vijay Mishra, Anupama from Australia, Sandeep, Prince, Surbi, Sriram, and Devnath. All of them have contributed so well in the growth of this community. So hats off to all of them. They contribute in their own capacities, and they take up different roles and responsibilities, and it is all voluntary. They're not part of our my organization. They all work for their own respective organizations, and they contribute towards community activity. So today, whatever we are here and whatever we have done, it wouldn't have been possible without them. There's another team, that is the Domino teams, our core team members from Bangalore and Calcutta, who constantly help us with our community activities. So hats off to them. They have relentlessly supported my community initiatives. Special thanks to Microsoft. Microsoft has also come forward very actively and recognized us and supported our community activities. So I can very confidently say that if there is one company that understands what community is all about, that is Microsoft. All of you are members of Data Platform Geeks community, so continue to remain members because now you are a member. You don't have to really register for every event. All you just need to do is log on to dataplatformgeeks.com with your credentials and book the seat for your favorite event or whichever webinar or event you wish to attend. Please be notified. We are coming up with 2 in-person events in Bangalore. One is on Feb 22 and another one is on March 14th. Most likely in the event March 14th, I will be there delivering a session in Bangalore on March 14th as well. So Feb 22 and March 14 is also about SQL Server. Our theme is going to be SQL Server. So continue to be part of Data Platform Geeks community. There are more resources out there for you to learn. And yes, as many of you wanted the links, this slide is what we are going to share with you. So before we begin, if you just double click on this, this is a TXT file which I have embedded in the PowerPoint, and you will get access to all the links. And you can conveniently and peacefully sit back and relax and join all the channels that you prefer. So we will share this slide with you after the webinar is over. Satya, Aarti, please take a note of that. And of course, if you have questions, all these links are anyway going to be there in that TXT file. So I'll just quickly skip them for the time being. And before I continue with the session, I will request Satya to paste the links once more in the chat window for those who have just joined now. So those who have just joined now, please refer to the chat window for all the links related to the social channels. Over to the speaker. I am the speaker myself, so I will switch on to my technical webinar slide now. And let me just share it. I have to select a new share. Give me a second. All right, so I hope all of you can now see troubleshoot slow running queries. That's the topic for today. My name is Amit Bansal and I'm going to be your host. There is another important link out there and I'll ask Satya to put it. In case you wish to stay connected with me personally, this is a very exclusive distribution list that I maintain for people who attend my conference sessions or pre-con or classes, or who have read a blog that was written by me, or if you have watched a video that I recorded. This is an exclusive distribution list for all those viewers. So today, if you are being part of this webinar and you're learning something from me, connect on this link, which is bit.ly/connect with AB. I will write probably once in 2 weeks or so and keep you updated on all the learning resources that I'm creating or I'm referring to. The link is again bit.ly/connect with AB. I'm part of eDominer organization, and I work, my full-time job is with SQL Maestros, and I already talked about the communities that I'm associated with: Data Platform Geeks, SQL Server Geeks, and Data Platform Summit. Under eDominer, we also have Expand and People with India units. My work quickly: I am a Microsoft Certified Master for SQL Server, also an MVP. Microsoft has also honored me with regional director status. As part of my full-time job with SQL Maestros, I do a lot of work around performance tuning, consulting, training, and I've created, and in the process of creating, some learning resources related to video courses, hands-on labs, learning kits, and my colleagues and I, we also provide SQL Server health check services. For you, what could be good today will be the hands-on labs. If you really want to get your hands dirty on SQL Server DBA developer tasks, we have more than 100 labs in our library. And we've just changed the subscription model. You can go and purchase those labs. You don't have to subscribe. You can own them for life. This is a community initiative. So go to sqlmaestros.com and you can get access to all of them. Performance tuning video courses will be up and soon in a few weeks' time. So let's get started now. Performance tuning. I started my career with SQL Server as a developer, and then I moved on to database administration. And in database administration, I spent quite a bit of time on performance tuning aspects. Till date, I have worked with more than 200 big SQL customers globally, and I've gained a lot of experience from their issues, from their performance problems, their large servers and large data sets. And that's exactly what I try to bring to my sessions and my courses and in my events and webinars. So my first question to all of you, and please put your responses in the chat window: when you see that your workload, your query, or your stored procedure is running slow, which means the query, the workload is running slow, what exactly do you do? What are the different things that you do? The order is not important. You may want to do something first or something last, but what are the different things that you do? Please give your responses in the chat window. I want to hear it from you before I get started. And I will read out all the things that people are talking about. So people are talking about statistics, people are talking about SP who is active, check indexes, profiler, defrag the indexes, use SP who to check event logs. Someone is asking, is only one thing running slow? Yes, I'm only talking about a query running slow, not the entire server slowness. So people are talking about, again, statistics. Okay, first thing to check is query execution plan. That's interesting. Check resources, perfmon. Someone is talking about DBCC commands. So Ravi, if you could be more specific, exactly what are the DBCC commands you're talking about? Kumar says, I will go and check for blocking. Ajay talks about check table size and indexes. Shivraj is talking about dynamic queries performance tuning. I really don't know what that would mean, but if you can elaborate a little more. Check log space, convert nested loop to merge join, check query memory grants. Rajkumar says that. etc. A lot of responses. Thank you. So I just wanted to hear from you. What are the different things that you do? And all your responses that I see right now is kind of what I expected. So if you just kind of see here, these are the different things that you may probably want to do. Execution plan, check locking, blocking, check indexes, defrag them, rebuild them again. You can check for IO. You're checking your code. Is your T-SQL proficient? You can use tools like Profiler to capture performance metrics and then work upon that later. You can also use Activity Monitor or even perfmon counters to check resource usage in terms of CPU, memory, and IO. And so many different examples, but none of you have till now talked about weights. Can you go and check what is your query waiting on? Because if you are able to find out what is your query waiting on, probably that could give you a lot of indication and hints as to which path or which road you need to walk to. So I was hoping that some of you may even also talk about checking weight stats. One thing that I don't see in the list here is, of course, statistics. Updating statistics is something that you can also do, but then again, blindly trying to rebuild indexes or statistics is something that I will probably do later. First, I would like to investigate. In query performance tuning, in query tuning methodology, first is investigation, which is what is the root cause of the problem. If we directly jump to, let's say, updating stats or just kind of dropping indexes, rebuilding them again, or just trying to defrag them again, those are remedies that you might take. Some of that is guesswork. But before that, you should first investigate and diagnose what is the root cause of the performance problem. I continue to get more responses where people want to check network issues or use DMVs like sysdm OS waiting tasks. All that is great. But then I have highlighted the last point, and I've colored it as red, which is check for wait statistics. Because when your query is running, think about it. When you send your query to SQL Server, there are, from a layman perspective, only two things that can happen. Either the query is running, which means it is doing something, it is consuming some resources, and it's actively doing something, or it is waiting. And if it is waiting, you need to find out what it is waiting for. Is it waiting for memory? Is it waiting for IO? Is it waiting for CPU cycles? Is it waiting for a page which is already locked or blocked by another resource, another session? So what exactly is your query waiting on? If you are able to figure out what is your query waiting on, then life becomes a lot more simpler. When there is a query performance issue, when your workloads are running slow, checking the wait statistics for that specific query is one way of troubleshooting the slowness for that query. Please remember, that may not always be the way or mechanism of troubleshooting query performance. That's just one of the ways. There are other things also that you may want to do, but then in this 1 hour webinar, I will not be able to talk about anything and everything that you should do. Today, my focus is how can you go and check the wait statistics for a specific query. When I say wait statistics for a specific query, remember, I am not talking about the complete server wait stats. Okay, use the chat window and let me know how many of you know that SQL Server is constantly recording wait metrics, which you can actually see from sysdm OS wait stats, which is instance level wait stats. Have you heard of this, and have you ever used this DMV? sysdm OS wait stats. Okay, so I can see a lot of you, some of you say yes, and some of you are saying no, or you might have just heard of it. Well, sysdm OS wait stats is at server level, and I am not going to talk about that today. I'm actually going to talk about checking wait statistics for your given query. So let's go and stick to what the topic for this session is, which is how to troubleshoot a slow running query. We are not troubleshooting server slowness here. We are troubleshooting a slow running query. That is what is the specific topic for today. And now I will jump to the VM. So just give me a moment and I will activate the VM. I want to check with you. Can you see the VM now? Okay, many of you say that you cannot see the VM. Now can you see the VM? Great. So all of you can see the VM, and if you see, I have put out the so let me just change the graph to overall utilization for CPU because I just want to keep this active. So I have task manager here because I want to constantly just look at how the CPU utilization is going on, and I have my management studio behind. So let's begin with the first basic example. In webinars, because really I can't see you, I just have to really imagine that all of you are listening to me carefully. So two things, listen to me carefully, watch the demo very carefully. I am not going to go very fast, I will go slow, and so that you can follow everything that I am doing. First thing that I see that right now, all of you can see that CPU utilization is currently at 4%, 10%, or 6%. So really, it's a very quiescent SQL Server right now. Nothing much is happening. Now, I'll go to a specific folder here, resource semaphore, and that's just the name of the folder, one of the wait types. And I'm going to open up a stored procedure. Now, this is a stored procedure. Now, it's not important for you and me right now to understand what is the code in this stored procedure. What is only important is that, let's say this is a line of business application, and this is one of the stored procedures which is fired by a client using a reporting tool or whatever. And it is important that the performance of this stored procedure is good. And let's go and execute this stored procedure and see how much time does it take. And I'm going to also include actual execution plan here. So press Control M or just click on the small icon and let me go and execute this stored procedure. So this stored procedure resides in AdventureWorks 2014. And now when I execute the stored procedure, you can see that it has taken about 3 seconds to execute, and I get the output. And why it takes 3 seconds initially? Because of course it's the first time I'm running it, and I also get the execution plan. We will come to the execution plan a little later. Let me go ahead and execute this once more. So let's go and execute this once more. And how much time does it take? Yeah, it takes 3 seconds. So all good. 3 seconds is acceptable to me. So when you talk about performance tuning, what are your normal metrics? That is very important. In daily life, you are recording normal metrics. When you go to your office, let's say your office begins at 9 a.m. Reaching at 9 a.m. is a normal metric. Just like 3 seconds execution time for this query is a normal metric. When you reach your office at 10 o'clock, you are late by an hour. So that is an abnormal metric. So these are numbers that you need to know. So if I know that 3 seconds is a reasonable execution time for this stored procedure, when it is 4 seconds or when it is 5 seconds, it may still be within acceptable limits. But let's say the execution time of this stored procedure changes to 15 seconds or 20 seconds, then it's a cause of worry, and then you may want to troubleshoot performance. Now, because it is 3 seconds, you may conveniently be sitting in a cafeteria and just having your cup of coffee because everything is going so smooth. Now let's try to simulate a performance problem. So I am simulating this. I'm adding a few users now to the system who are going to do a lot of different things. And this is a simulated engineered demo. And I also need to prepare myself to ensure that if something goes wrong in my VM, I need to go and stop all the workload. So I have this query which says stop workload. Never do something like this in your production environment. Remember, friends, this is just for the demo. Okay, so I have this. It's just going to take the database back to single user mode and then bring it back to multi-user mode, which means it's going to terminate all the transactions and sessions. This is only for the purpose of demo. And now let's keep this window on where I'm going to execute, and let's add some users. Now, this is a command line, and some client applications are running. They're talking to SQL Server and they're doing something. That's what I'm trying to achieve here. And now when I go back to SQL Server and I want to execute this stored procedure now, and when I click on execute, let's see how much time it takes. And the execution time of this stored procedure now, whether it is in acceptable limits or not, we need to find out. Now I have already executed it, and you can watch on the status window that it has gone beyond 20 seconds, and I've still not got the output. Now, so anything might happen really. Now, whatever is happening behind the scenes could be a lot of guesswork. It may be due to some blocking or locking. It may be due to CPU or memory resources or IO or anything for that matter. Wow. So execution is done. It has taken 31 seconds. Now, let's go back and stop the workloads for a moment. So I click on this stop workload. And while this was running, I want to show you, look at the CPU usage. So because there were so many users connected and we're actively doing a lot of stuff, you could see all the spikes out there in the CPU. I wanted to show that to you. And now at the later part of the CPU there, everything is very quiescent and back to normal. Now let's get back to troubleshooting mode. So this stored procedure took 31 seconds, and now you're sitting in cafeteria having a cup of coffee and you start getting alerts. A lot of support tickets have come from business users. Wow, my system report is taking so much time. My most critical report is taking so much time. Just a few minutes back it was running absolutely fine. I never had a problem with this report. Why is it suddenly running so slow? My system seems to be very slow. All sorts of complaints and tickets are coming, and all sorts of emails are coming from business users, and you want to go back and investigate. Now the question is, what are you going to do? So if we go back on the slides, we talked about indexes, we talked about stats, we talked about a whole lot of different things. But imagine this stored procedure could have like hundreds and thousands of lines of code inside it, and really and it may be touching a lot of different tables. So does it really make sense to just blindly go and update all the statistics, or rebuild all the indexes, or defrag all the indexes, or just randomly check activity monitor, etc.? Maybe not. So what we need to just find out that when this was originally running in 3 seconds, everything was so fine. Now it takes 31 seconds. What is going wrong? Why is it taking 31 seconds? Which means you need to find out what it was waiting for. So what I'm going to do is I will first go to the execution plan, and thankfully Microsoft SQL Server support, SQL Server product team members did a fantastic stuff, which is they have added wait information about every query workload right in SQL Server Management Studio here. So you really don't need to set up extended events to capture that information. So it becomes a lot convenient. Now, I hear from many of you that you said, we may go and look into execution plan. So now the execution plan is right in front of you. And when you look into the execution plan, some things will catch your attention. The first thing that may catch your attention is the sort operator here. So if you look at the sort operator is taking 97% of the total execution of this workload. And there's an exclamation mark on the sort operator. So if I hover over this sort operator, and let me see if I can zoom a bit, and yes I can, and it gives me some warning. It tells me that the operator used tempdb to spill the data during execution with spill level 1 and 8, spill threads, and a lot of other metrics out there. So that is one thing that catches my attention. The second thing that catches my attention is that there is a warning symbol on the select operator also. So I'm not sure in your window, depending on the screen size, can you really see that or not? But let me just zoom it and zoom a little more. Wow, now I've zoomed in really. Now I'm sure all of you can see this exclamation mark there, which means there is some problem here as well. And let me take the cursor over the select window, and I can see that one of the warnings says, and there you go, friends, look at this warning. The query had to wait 28 seconds for memory grant during execution. And this probably is one of the things that I was looking for, that can execution plan give me some information. Now, I want to read this again for you. The query had to wait. So look at this thing, wait, which means there must be some wait type involved here. And I have to go and look at the wait statistics, because some or the other wait type was involved. And the encounter here was it waited for approximately 28 seconds. And the wait type is related to memory grant, which means my query was asking for some memory, and maybe it was asking for more than normal memory grant, and it wasn't that much memory maybe wasn't available, and that's why it was waiting. So um, if you look at this portion, so this was the warning. Okay, this was one of the statements inside my stored procedure where it actually got stuck up. This also gives out a very important answer. Sometimes I get this question in forums and in our Telegram groups that, there is a huge stored procedure with, hundreds of lines and thousands of lines of code, and the stored procedure takes a lot of time to run, and it takes 30 minutes, 60 minutes to run. Where exactly is the problem inside the stored procedure? Now, inside the stored procedure, this is one of the statements where the execution is waiting for 28 seconds for memory grant. How much memory? That also gets answered here. So this particular query was wanting about more than 400 MB, more than 450 MB there. So 469168 is kilobytes. So it is 469,168 kilobytes, equivalent to close to 450 MB is what this query wanted. Why did it want so much? Maybe because it wanted to do an expensive sort operation. And that is the reason why my sort operator there shows 97% of the cost. If you look at the query itself, I am trying to do an order by of this data, 10,000 records, and if you look at the query and if you try to decipher a bit, it's like a cross join that we're trying to do, and we're trying to do a multi-level sort which happens in memory. And because this multi-level sort of a cross join Cartesian product requires so much memory, and SQL Server instance at this point did not have that much memory, it had to spill all of that data on the disk. That's why the sort operator also shows a warning, because it has to spill that temporary data on the disk with spill level 1 and 8, and 32,000 pages were spilled down. That is the information that was given in sort. So you can see and corroborate all this information right here. And that is precisely the reason why this query is running slow. So investigation of why the query is running slow based on wait types and wait statistics is very, very critical as the first step to get a hint or to get an indication as to what could be the root cause of a performance issue. Now, unlike many who would straight away jump to sort and look at look at the nested loop operator. If you pay attention closely here, even nested loop has some kind of a warning there with a cross, maybe because the query did not have a join condition, because we're just joining two inputs. So that's also not good from a relational mathematics perspective. So that also is a warning. And we might really friggle around a lot of different operators on the plan, but here is the root cause that we're trying to troubleshoot. Now let's dive one more level deep and see all the weight statistics related to this particular query. Before I go to the next part, I just want to make sure that all of you are with me and understanding everything that I'm talking about here step by step. So please use the chat window. Are things getting clear? So yeah, it's one of the statements. Someone was asking that question. Yes, it is one of the statements from the store proc. Amit Sawant, yes, that's true. At this point, if you have questions, please put it in the chat window. Then I move to the next part. I am constantly monitoring the chat window now. So if you have any question, put it up there, because we are midway with the session right now. Yes, Amit. So it shows that this statement is causing the problem. The execution plan is clearly saying that this statement is causing the problem. Any more questions before we begin? Sorry, before we continue. Okay, so Khushbu is asking, how can we handle the memory grant? So Khushbu, handling the memory grant, unfortunately, is not possible for me to really talk about that in this webinar, because that's an advanced concept and we will not really have that much time. But I do have a few videos in SQL Maestro's YouTube channel. If you search on memory, you will get access to that. Or just drop me a message on Twitter and I will point to you for that video, and you can learn more about that. Okay, so someone is asking me a question. What is the shortcut to get this to window? Well, shortcut to this window, I don't know the shortcut, but the execution plan tab is very clearly visible on on SSMS. So you can just click on that. So Rupa has a question, how to decrease the time in seconds. Well, we have to fix this memory grant issue, which may not be as simple, but then we will look at some options there. Yeah, but overall the question now is for all of you who are watching this webinar and who are part of this session, are the concepts getting clear? So Manish has a question, what if we don't have access to SSMS? Well, there has to be some way to look into the execution plan. So if you don't have access to SSMS, maybe someone from your team, a DBA or an admin who has access to SMS can just send you the execution plan. So the execution plan can be saved and they could just be emailed or just could be transferred over the wire. So it is really as simple as that. So yeah, so let's continue from this point now. All right, friends, I'm closing the chat window. So Jerry has a question, but this is estimated plan. Exactly, this is the estimated plan that you're seeing, Jerry. And let me tell you, what you see right now as actual execution plan is actually the estimated plan from the plan cache. But then these metrics are correct. Just because it isn't technically an estimated plan doesn't mean that the metrics are wrong. Now, if I go and I'm just to answer some other question, I can always save this execution plan as a SQL plan file, right? And I can put something here and just save it and send it over to someone else to investigate. Of course, that person needs to have Management Studio. So Management Studio can be independently installed as a client tool for you to access the estimated plan, to see the plan. So Harun has a good question. What if no warnings are shown in the execution plan? Great. What if no warnings were shown? Of course, if there were no warnings shown, still I would do what I'm doing next, which is I'm going to select the select operator here. And now watch carefully, starting from, if I am not wrong, maybe from SQL Server 2016 onwards, I have the weight stats here. And if I expand weight stats, I can see all the different weight types that this query had encountered during its lifetime. So in these 31 seconds, it encountered page IO latch sh, then it has encountered latch ex, then it has encountered page latch sh, which is page latch shade. This is buffer latch. This is related to IO. So please don't confuse between page IO and page latch. These are two different types of weight types. Then there is another weight type, IO completion. Then the fifth one, which is page latch UP. So this stands for update. That stands for shared. That's how we read this. And another one is async network IO. Now, if you look at all these weight types that were encountered by this query, you also get to see the weight count and wait time in milliseconds. 423 milliseconds, 144 milliseconds, 78 milliseconds, and 3 milliseconds, so on and so forth. So you can see the cumulative numbers out here. But none of these numbers are equivalent to 20 seconds or 28 seconds or 30 seconds. So where is that weight type? So if you look at warnings, now if I expand the last one, warnings, there's another weight under warning. And this was also some questions in the forum where people were not able to see that, because this weight, whatever by design goes inside the warning. And if I click on this warning and I click on this ellipsis button, it says the query had to wait 28 seconds for memory grant during execution. This is the same warning that you saw on the tooltip. Let me close this and let me expand wait. And then I can see, yes, here you can see that wait time was 28 seconds. Friends, remember here, this is wait time and this is wait time MS. MS here stands for milliseconds. And here wait time is in seconds. This is not in milliseconds. This is in seconds. What is the wait type? Wait type is memory grant. Memory grant as a wait type, technically speaking, this should be resource semaphore. That is the technical name of the wait type. So if I open up check resource semaphore wait type just to show this to you, and if you look at in wait stats, and let me go and execute this, this is the wait type resource semaphore, and this is the total, this is the cumulative wait time. A portion of this is for this query which I'm showing you right now. So this is how you see the all the wait stats throughout the server, I mean for the entire instance since SQL Server has started. But seeing instance level wait stats may not be very helpful at this point. That could be used when there is a general slowness on the server. But right now we're troubleshooting a specific query, we are troubleshooting a specific stored procedure, so you need to go and look at the metrics of that particular stored procedure. So we clearly see that, let me just go back here, we clearly see that in the warnings there, this is what my query is waiting for. Now from this point, where do you go when you know that your query was waiting on memory, which means it really wanted 400 something MB, but there wasn't enough memory. And many of you might be wondering, why was it running good before? And when I started off some other workloads, then it was waiting. The idea was very simple because it is an engineer demo. I was trying to simulate a real world scenario where a lot of users connect to SQL Server, and if let's say some of them are running memory intensive workload, they are consuming some memory, and now the amount of memory that SQL Server has dedicated to query execution, there isn't much left in that particular pool, then the query has to wait. And when the query waits, for memory grant, it is called as a wait type of resource underscore semaphore. That's exactly what happened when I ran about 10 instances of other workloads which were consuming memory. And then when I come back here and I was running this one, it stuck up on that particular statement because it wasn't having enough memory. After 31 seconds or after 30 seconds, it got that much memory because other workloads that I ran in using the command file completed their execution. So this was waiting in the queue, and when it got its turn, it got the memory and it executed and completed, and that's why it took that much time. Now because those workloads are not running, and if I execute this again, it will run perfectly fine within a few seconds. And now when I run it again, you can see it completed in 3 seconds time. And if you go and look into the execution plan, friends, the execution plan right now is same. Only difference is now there is no warning on the select operator because it did not really wait that much. So SQL Server is also giving you that hint that things were fine. Sort will still have a problem because you are doing an expensive sort and there isn't enough memory, so it is spilling down. But then the query did not really wait for 20 seconds. All right, friends. So this was an explanation. So irrespective when your query is running slow, whether or not execution plan gives you warning or not, you can still always go ahead and check for wait stats. So now because the execution plan itself, the select operator is not giving me any warning, I can still go ahead and select the operator there, and I can look at the wait stats. So if I expand this, you can see all the wait stats again there from 1 to 6. So obviously same amount, same wait types, but then there was no warning this time. Friends, also take a note that when I this time if I just go and show you the select, look at this, memory grant requirement is almost the same, right? And no warning because it got that much memory. Why? Because the other workloads are not running right now. And these are the wait types that you can see. Prior to SQL Server 2016, it was slightly more difficult to get this kind of information. So we had to set up extended events and then try to capture this information. So from all of you who are attending today's webinar, just a quick question. How many of you are running SQL Server 2012, 2014, or even older versions like 2008 and 2008 R2? How many of you still have those versions in your environment? Okay, looks like many of you are still on 2012 and 2014. Some of you have 2016 also. So you may find this improvement that I'm showing you in the properties window from 2016 onwards. Maybe it's SP1 or SP2 that you can check. But many of you So if you are on older versions of SQL Server, let's say 2008 or R2 or 2012 or 2014, I'm not sure about 8 or R2, but definitely on 2012 and 2014, you can use extended events. Extended events can help you capture the same information. So what you can do is right click on extended events sessions here, if you can see on the left side in Object Explorer, and I can right click and do a new session. And okay, but let me first ask the audience, do you want me to show you how to set up extended events to capture the same information? Is that something that you're interested in? Okay, so a lot of you want me to show you how to even capture the same information from extended events. And I will do that very quickly for you to just kind of see. So look at this, friends. My session number here is 66. I will just right click. And anyway, this webinar is being recorded, so you may want to follow these steps later. You can do that. Let me go back and use a new session wizard. That will just make it really quick. I'm doing a new session wizard and I say track underscore weights, move next. I don't want to use a template, move next. And I can take my event, which is weight info. So I can just type weight and I will get weight info. This is going to capture all the weight. This is the fields that I'm going to get: duration, signal duration, weight type, etc. So let's take this one and move it here, move next. And let me also take a few global fields here. Of course, if extended events is something new to you, you should read a little more about extended events. And I'm going to take SQL text. So these are global capture fields that I want with my event information, and I want to filter on session ID 66. So I can go to my package SQL server and filter on session ID 66. So remember, this is very similar to profiler in conceptually, where when you set up a profiler trace, you choose the events and the columns, and you can apply filters. Something very similar is what I'm doing, but extended events is very powerful, very lightweight. Now, let's take this as a classic example where you're trying to capture weight information, but extend profiler does not really have an event that will allow you to capture that information. I want to put this data in ring buffer, which is in memory. And here is, let's script out this for you to see it later. This is what the code looks like. As you can see, I'm creating an event session called track weights. My package is SQL OS, which stands for operating system, and my event is weight info. And I'm going to capture these extra global fields apart from whatever the event gives me. And then my filter is only for session ID 66 because I'm only troubleshooting that very specific query. Put the data in ring buffer, which means I'm not using any file. I'm just capturing limited amount of stuff, and I'm putting it in memory. And then let's go and finish this and start the session and watch it in live window. It's like watching the data getting captured. So my session here, let me close this if you have seen this already. And this is my session 66 there. And now you can see the window is blank because there's nothing really running in 66. And let's capture this information once more. So I'm going to run these 10 users again, add a few users to simulate some stress on SQL Server. And if you go and look at Task Manager, you can see that the CPU will start spiking now because all of them are active. Now let's go back to Management Studio, run our report, and let's see how much time it takes. And this is very dynamic. It could just run in few seconds, or it may again take a lot of time, 25, 30 seconds, or even more. Depends on when does it really get that memory. So while this is running, if there are questions, please put them in the chat window and I will try to answer. Can 2016 SSMS connect to 2012 server and show the info? Good question. Can you do that? Yes, 2016 SSMS can connect to 2012 and show that info. You can try doing that. Okay, what are the other questions? Is someone using the Q&A? Okay, so I'm pausing it. I get the output, and this time, how much time it has taken? It has taken again 31 seconds. Let's go and stop the workload because I don't really want the VMs to slow down. Okay, and let's go and in this live data. So you can see a lot of weights are getting captured. And now, friends, you can see 8,555 events got captured. And this is, I'm now just going one step back, and I'm trying to show you a technique where you can record this data, persist it. You see, remember this technique of using extended events is not only for 2012 or 14, but you can also apply it to 16, 17, and 19, because extended events is very powerful. Capturing this data, storing it in offline files, or even inside your SQL Server tables is a great way to go back and do more research on your performance data as to what was going on. And now, once the capture is complete, I can stop the feed. And now I can do some mathematics here, which is what I want to do is take my weight type, right click, and show the column here in the table there, and also take duration of each weight and show that column in the table there. Oops, sorry. No, timestamp I don't need, so I can remove this column. I need to take weight type, and I need to take the duration. So I can right click and show column. So this is what I need. And then I can, if you can see on the toolbar there, you have grouping and aggregation option. So if I go to grouping, I can group on weight type. So this is going to summarize. This is similar to group by that you do. And on aggregation tab here, if I click on aggregation, I can aggregate on duration, and I can aggregate on sum, because I want to see that in totality. So I can see that a lot of different weight types did occur, but one of them, so if you look at the sum, 439 milliseconds, not such a big deal, 0, 63. Okay, this is SSB task stop. Okay, something that I don't want to discuss right now, but let's leave it. Some 0, 12. This one is what I was talking about, resource semaphore, 27 seconds. So 27,000 milliseconds, something that catches our attention. So CX packet also, there were some of them, but then really the culprit is resource semaphore weight type, and the total is 27 seconds out there. So this data I can persist, and that's the beauty of extended events. I can always save this data. If I go to extended events, I can export it to an XML file or a table or even a comma separated value, and I can research on that later. So that is a great technique to save this performance information for later analysis and further research. Now, friends, time is always short. I wanted to show you another demo where I was running some workload, and just to let you know that I had prepared for that for today, where I was trying to show you page IO latch and thread count and all of that. But then these are more complicated demos where I show you multiple things happening with the workload, with the stored procedures, with multiple statements and all of that, a more advanced and complex example. But try to join me on March 14th in Bangalore at Microsoft. If you have your mobile phone, pen, paper handy, take that date down, and maybe I will run some more advanced demos at that point of time. So I hope this demo was clear. I was just trying to make okay, so let me close the VM and go back to the slide. So I was trying to make a simple point here today that when your workloads queries are running slow, try to find out what are they waiting on, and then take corrective measures. Then if it is page IO latch, is it due to lack of indexes? There's a lot of IO happening. So are you missing some relevant indexes that can reduce the IO? In this particular example, you saw resource semaphore. So there's a lot of memory being used. So, and that is happening because of the sort. Do you really need to sort? That's the question. Do you need multi-level sort? Can you apply a filter on the tables so that the joined data, both the data sets, can get smaller? Can you break down a big monolithic sort into smaller sorts? There are a lot of these things and techniques that can apply once you know where the problem is. And likewise, I can continue to give more examples. Blocking is a very classic example. Let's say my query was waiting only because it wanted a record, a row, which was already blocked by another session. and that's really waiting. And I just can't do much about that other than trying to figure out why is that the other user holding a lock for so long. So once you know what your query is waiting for, then of course life becomes a lot easier. So that was a very limited amount of conclusion that I want to derive. Remember, today the demo I showed you, today the technique that I was just trying to discuss is not really everything. This is just a very small part, a small piece in your performance troubleshooting, tuning, and methodology. It's a combination of art and science. So just one thing cannot really give you all the advantages and benefits. So friends, if you liked today's session, if it was worth your time, if you enjoyed the demo, you followed the concept, please give some feedback. My colleague has put down a link in the chat window on LinkedIn. We've just posted a message there with the screenshot. So I really ask all of you to go ahead and click on that link and give us some feedback as to how much worth this was for your time and whether you really liked the session or not. And join me in Bangalore on March 14th. Remember, there's another SQL Server 2019 event coming up on Feb 22 in Bangalore, which is just next week, really, next Saturday. Also, a quick word from our knowledge partners, Satya and myself. We're coming up with performance tuning video courses. So click on that link and you can learn more. bit.ly/AB video course. And again, in the chat windows, those links are there. I'm just trying to record all our content and put them into video courses. We're coming up with a performance tuning video course, T-SQL querying, and T-SQL programming. Hopefully by March 1st week, they should be out. You may want to learn more about that. And I always see people having less access to hands-on labs. So check out our hands-on labs solution also, which is hols.sqlmaestros.com. There are more than 125 labs out there. There are many labs related to performance tuning as well. So we have packaged them into bundles. You may want to buy a few of them if you wish to practice. Well, that's it for today. I'm ready to take questions now. And those of you who are done and you have no questions, feel free to connect with me on bit.ly/connectwithab. Subscribe to this exclusive distribution list. And talk to you soon. Thank you very much and have a good day. And now over to the questions. So please use the Q&A panel. Please don't use the chat window now anymore. Please use the Q&A panel and ask your question. I will answer them. So Jiri has a question, how you imagine to use this concept in production when the problem is already ruling? I think you're saying the problem is already running. While this is already going on, if a query is already running and it's just not giving output, at that very moment, I can always go and look at DMOS waiting tasks. That is a real-time DMV, filter on the session ID and try to figure out while the query is running, what it is waiting on. That is real-time troubleshooting while the query is already running. So that's same concept, but just another technique, another way to figure things out. What I just tried to show you was more of offline mechanism where I get the support ticket and then I try to take the procedure in my control, run it in the production and peacefully look at all the metrics. Hope that helps, Jiri. Amit, Amit Sawant has a question. Is there a way to find out earlier executed queries? Sometimes it's not possible to reproduce the issue or execute the query again and again. Is there a way to find out? Yes, query stats has some information. That is a place where you may want to go and find some information, but it may not really have all the information. And there is no way where you will be able to find the complete wait stats information related to a specific query. If you want to do something like that, you can rely on query store feature. That's one of the things, or you may capture your own baseline. So thanks, Amit, for the question. Prakash has a question. Will you have additional online sessions on this topic? Prakash, at this point, I cannot guarantee about more online sessions. I may not have anything coming up soon, but maybe sometime in April or so. Yeah, thanks, Prakash. Prem has a question. Being a SQL DBA, we have to find the wait type and inform to application team, right? Okay, Prem, no, may or may not be very difficult to answer this because this is subjective. If if the issues are really related to your server, IO, CPU, memory, what really can your application team do? But if it is to do something with the code, if someone has written a code like what I showed today, doing a cross join between two large data sets without any filter and trying to do multi-level sort, I'm definitely going to go back and check with the application and development team that this query doesn't seem to be right. I mean, is this really how you want it to be? And just try to figure things out. So efficiency of the T-SQL code is always very critical. Anonymous attendee has a question. If some queries are running through third-party tool, how to track this with execution plan or extended events? Well, the query might be running from anywhere, but you can always get the execution plan in SQL Server for that workload or for that query. Thanks, anonymous attendee. Santosh has a question. Is it recommended to run trace or extended events in production for hours, production hours for performance issue? Extended events is very lightweight. I will not recommend you to run profiler or trace, but extended events can be run. Because it is lightweight doesn't mean that you just kind of run it for long duration and try to capture a lot of events and a lot of metrics. Just be very specific as what you really want, and then I think it should be fine. Doesn't cause really too much hassle. All right, friends, I'm done with all the questions. So thank you very much. I request all of you to please go and give some feedback on that LinkedIn, and yes, join on all the social channels. We are going to share this slide with you right now. Remember, one of the slides on this PPT has links to all the social links. So we look forward to continue talking to you. Do join our upcoming webinars. There is a webinar on Thursday, and of course, next week, Satya has a great webinar, my colleague, on working with nulls in SQL Server. So make sure you join that webinar. That's going to be a lot of insights into how SQL Server treats nulls. So a lot of events and learning up your way, and hope to continue talking to you and hope to continue sharing knowledge with you. Thank you and have a good day. See you soon.